Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take, and this one is it's not that hot of a take, but gotta put out this warning to the YouTubers. I think you gotta beware of your. I know there's not a. The woke stuff is dying. Okay, the woke stuff is going away, but there are guys sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel to find some woke stories out there, I think, and it's starting to show. And again, this isn't a defense of wokeness. I sign me up. I am an enemy of the woke, but you know, I saw Jeremy on the Quarterling do a thing about celebrities, and he was saying that he thought the singer Pink and her kid wasted beer virus test on themselves when other people need them, kind of was the implication. Not quite that way, but it was kind of the implication. She apparently tested positive, and so that was a good thing she got a test. I mean, you could argue that, yes, she had better access because she's rich and had a celebrity doctor or whatever. But the fact that she tested positive meant she did need a test. And then he complained that she got a test later to confirm that she was no longer positive, her and her son. But again, that would have been standard procedure for a doctor, I think. She had it, had to test him. Her son is in close proximity. He's only like 3, I think. He definitely needed to be tested too. I mean, it's not like he could stay 6 feet away from his mom. So I think we have to be careful as we move into the latter part of 2020, not to get too caught up in the woke stuff anymore, because it is going away. Now there's still some remnants of it. It's still hanging on. Certainly comic books are, making a go of hanging on to the woke. The woman who writes She-Hulk seems to be desperate to put herself out there and make statements. I think at this point it's almost just to get attention from the anti-woke. It's almost like bait. I mean, if you can't get good attention, why not get bad attention? So I would be extremely wary of talking about some of this stuff at this point. The comic book industry is on its way out. Even though Diamond Distributors, just a point, is trying to make some kind of payments to people, but it doesn't bode well. They're probably going to be out of business. I agree with the Yellow Flash, who's covered this pretty extensively. But so we have to get prepared for the new comics, the new dynamic that will emerge, and we have to start making more positive steps towards that. We have to start pitching what should happen, and what should happen is Marvel and DC should go to a digital model, at least for the time being, and they should just, if they want to save the comic book stores, it's a simple way. If you buy the stuff online, you type in your comic book store, and then Marvel or DC can either ship them to the comic book store for you to get when this is all over, or they can ship them to you and then ship the comic book stores their share. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think Marvel and DC want to save the comic book stores that badly, and quite frankly, when you look at that model, that's a completely unsustainable model. That is essentially charity for a business that unfortunately may be going away. And look, I went to comic book stores for years, and I like comic book stores. I like the people who run them, but they, to some extent, they made the bed, and the ones that didn't certainly supported the people who brought this on. I was there during the height, and let me tell you something, people didn't think about the future. They didn't. They could have been taking their extra money and putting them into new and exciting projects. They could have been preparing for the future. Instead, it was still a cash money grab. It's going to be a cash money grab when we come out of this, because now the excuse, back then it was the excuse, well, we got to make money, and now the excuse will be like, well, we're not making any money. And you know, the fact that the comic books for a long time have existed in a bubble and are still, you know, using that as an excuse. It's not even an excuse anymore. You're not making enough money to be worth a damn. You might as well do exciting, new, dangerous projects with talent that are controversial, and you're not. You're hiring your friends, in my view. You're hiring the same stupid people, the same inner circles that have always gotten the jobs, and they're, in my view, not very talented. They're just connected. So, you know, now would be the time to hire some controversial writer or artist to do a book. And now would have been the time to hire the guys at Comicsgate. I would have hired those guys in a hot minute if I was running Marvel and DC. I would have brought them all in for a big meeting and said, guys, I want you to do some books for us. Maybe give them their own imprint, let them go nuts, and let people complain away, because it would have been great PR. It would have been amazing PR. But I think that time has passed. I think most of the comic skaters are making way too much money to want to do something like that. They're also past the point, I think, of a peace summit. That seems to be a non-starter, because the people who were in power are now rapidly losing that, and I think their pleas for peace are going to fall on deaf ears. To some extent it has. I mean, there's been sort of some rumblings of that, and the comic skaters are not too keen on it, and I can't really blame them. They were treated horrendously, you know, and I think, though, they will eventually come around, but they're not gonna help these people. I don't think they're gonna hire too many of them, maybe a handful of them, the really talented ones, maybe. These are the guys who are going to inherit comic books. So, you know, when we look back on this time, we will remember it as the time in which the comic skaters took over comics. And they're going to be the only guys left standing. They built a ship, the waters came, and everybody else drowned. The webcomic guys will be around too, guys like me. We're insulated because we never made any money anyway, some of us. But a few of them are like the comic skaters. They're making good money. They're doing crowdfunding and whatnot. The only thing that's really going to go away in comics is the big guys. Their model's done. Until, you know, once they're gone, somebody might make it work. I could certainly make it work, but, you know, it would require a complete changing of the model and about 2 or 3 years of capital, I would say, to run a comic book company the way you should run it. But, you know, like anything else, businesses require a lot of capital, a lot of people. Anyhow, pulling back from this woke stuff. Sorry, the dog's distracting me. She I don't know what she's barking at. I think there's a squirrel on the other side of the fence. Anyhow, Joan, that's enough. Come here, Joan. Anyhow, I think it's time to tap the brakes on the anti-woke stuff. I think it's time to start touting the new stuff. I think it's time to start doing more positive things for your community and for the world. I think it's just time to move on, you know, from the woke stuff. It's over. We shouldn't forget it, and we should penalize the wokeness people for what they've done. We shouldn't forget them, because remember, they are kind of a dangerous lot. I mean, they're very much like the neocons. The neocons, their whole deal was, if you're not on board with this, you're anti-American. You're not a patriot if you're not for bombing people all overseas and this big military buildup. And there were plenty of people who bought into that and supported the neocons during that time, and they're still working in media. I saw Andrew Sullivan tweeting, and he was a guy who did have somewhat of a mea culpa, but back in the day, he was all about that Iraq war, wasn't he? So he shouldn't forget. I don't think you should forget. They need little reminders, and people who called it right should be praised and uplifted, and like the comic skaters. John Kurosawa, I think his name is. I can never pronounce his last name. He was the CIA agent who outed the torture. He should be a guy who is lauded. He's not really, but he's doing much better than he was. He was in jail for quite a while. But he's trying to make it in Hollywood, trying to sell his story. I wish him well. So the wokeness will pass, but there are wokeness criminals, if you will, and you got to watch out for them, because really they're weak people who will latch on to anything to gain power. It just so happens they latched on to the wokeness. Some of them believed it, but a lot of them just latched onto it, decided that was the new thing, and that's how I'm going to get power, and or they just don't check things. They just don't think for themselves. So we can't let them forget what they did, especially if they canceled someone. But going after them, hunting them down at this point, seems pointless. Although I'm sure there's going to be plenty of woke stories to laugh at, and we should laugh at them. And certainly the UK is still caught in a lot of woke nonsense. Hopefully Boris Johnson will recover and put a stop to that. I wouldn't count on it right away, but they're pretty deep down the rabbit hole of wokeness over in the UK. But hopefully we can stop it here. Certainly Trump is not woke. Speaking of which, I think I'm going to check out, see if he's got another press conference rolling. And if you get a chance, please check out my books. Speaking of woke, check out Wokistan, a novel. All about a college that has a breakdown when Trump is reelected. So it takes place in the not too distant future. And addresses a lot of wokeness. And check out The Pineys, books 1, 2, 3, and 4. Available at Amazon.com. Kindle Unlimited is free. But we also have ebooks and trade paperbacks. Audiobooks coming soon. I got to work on that, in fact. I got to get to work. I'll see you next time.